Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for manufacturing during COVID-19. Before we get started, I'd like to get some housekeeping out of the way. We will be recording this session, and you'll receive a link to that recording either later today or early next week. So please feel free to forward that to those that missed today's presentation. And if you have a question during the presentation, you can enter it in the question box found on the right-hand side of your screen. I'd like to introduce our speakers now. Peter Funk started his career at Rehrig as a mechanical engineer with a focus on machine design and project management. His project load had him working closely with his maintenance team, which led to the implementation of Upkeep. About 7 years ago, Peter moved into a role as a reliability engineer and now reliability manager for the Kansas City plant. In his spare time, he enjoys hiking, kayaking, and shooting sports. And John Finney has been the National Reliability Manager at Rehrig for 2 years. Before that, he was plant manager of Rehrig Pacific's Atlanta manufacturing plant. When not in social isolation, which we all are right now, John enjoys hiking with his wife, Laura, and their 2 dogs, Zeus and Sansa. It's my pleasure to introduce John Finney. John?
Thanks, Victoria. So hello from Atlanta. My name is John Finney. This is me over here on the right when I am not in social isolation and not growing an awesome mustache. I don't know if you can all see that, but pretty cool photo that I wanted to share with you all first. This is Pete and I together went out during a recent visit to the Kansas manufacturing site that Pete's the local reliability manager of, maybe future national reliability manager. But I actually gave Pete an award for the innovation that he showed with actually finding and selecting Upkeep for his plant. And the Kansas plant was the first plant to use Upkeep across our 7 manufacturing locations. So it's pretty cool that Pete's able to join us today. So a lot of you people on this call probably don't know who Rehrig Pacific is. We are a manufacturing company that creates containers through 11 different industries so that other companies can ship their goods throughout the country. So because of that, Rehrig Pacific was deemed a essential manufacturer or essential supplier during this pandemic. If you're in a Costco or a Sam's Club, for example, you might recognize a lot of Rehrig Pacific products and you just don't know that Rehrig Pacific makes them. So for example, the crates that you have milk in, or the crates that you have eggs in a Walmart, where that front wall folds down. We make those things. We also make things like you see on your screen here, big nestable pallets, and also things for a company like Pepsi to ship their soda bottles around. So I mentioned that Rehrig was classified as an essential business. So this time of the year, we are historically and usually pretty slow. But because of the increase in demand and because of everything that has been happening in our country and in the world, we've been over 80% utilized for our whole manufacturing, all of our manufacturing locations. So we have 80 machines. So the utilization that we have had has caused us to generate 20% of our fiscal year profits over the last 3 weeks. So putting numbers to that is we made 26 million pounds of finished goods in the month of March. And that was one of the most productive months that we've had in recent memory. And another thing that was really interesting, and Pete's going to talk a little bit about this, is the fact that we haven't had any injuries since we implemented these social distancing policies. Pete?
Yeah, John, it's a really interesting correlation that we've seen as a significant drop in injuries and near misses since instituting some of our COVID-19 policies. It's really unclear as to what is the driving factor in that, but if I had to guess, it's just awareness and everyone making safety part of their daily habit and reminding each other of these new policies stems directly into all the other safety initiatives and policies we have in place. Now, what's Upkeep's role as we work through these new policies and procedures with COVID-19? And really for us at the plant level, it's business as usual. A lot of the structure in Upkeep's implementation has been put there to minimize person-to-person communication. Something that made me seek out Upkeep when I got into this position is the frustration of how many things got passed on verbally and then fell off someone's priority list. So I wanted something where I could keep an archive of those requests, being it a high priority or a low priority, so that they could get attended to at the right time. And so because of that, everything that we've been doing with Upkeep is just making our social distancing with COVID-19 all that much easier. We have people on the floor at the point of use putting in requests, and they do not then have to have a personal communication with a maintenance tech in order to get attention to their piece of equipment. On the scheduling side, there's no need for large direct meetings with everyone gathered into a room. We can distribute work very efficiently through the Upkeep app and management of people's backlogs.
Awesome, Pete. And you know, the points that you just spoke to, and they're even more critical for me being in a national role where now I'm no longer in a plant where I'm able to have any sort of face-to-face conversations with people. I'm depending more and more on the content that is being put into Upkeep and the data that's flowing through it. So to continue operation, you know, during this pandemic, we have definitely had to implement certain social distancing measures and also controls. So the first thing that most of you will be aware of or have heard about through the news is the daily screening process. So the first thing that we've started to do as we're continuing operation is to have an IR scan of our people's temperature. So we're doing condition-based inspections based off of humans. So that's exciting. Additionally, PPE. So, and Pete's going to talk about a few of the examples that we're using in our manufacturing sites. And we've also had to make a lot of policy changes, both for visitors, for our cleaning schedules, how we go about planning and executing work, and then also creating a formal accountability loop to ensure that all of our employees are responsibly following these procedures. And then the last piece is with any sort of stressful time like this, keeping the communication level up and trying to focus on reminding everyone that, you know, Rehrig Pacific is a family-owned company, and we want it to continue to be a great place to work, even during a pandemic.
So yeah, a couple things have changed during PPE. We've always been eyeglasses on the floor, so that's no different. But now gloves and masks must be worn in the production and warehouse areas, as well as some guidelines on maintaining social distancing, and you'll see some examples of that to come. So the masks either sourced from your typical medical masks or homemade fashioned ones, as you can see some here. And then also with our radios, our plant radios are a shared asset that's passed on from shift to shift, and obviously a point of possible transmission. So we've instituted a scrub down procedure on those before being transitioned from shift to shift. And we're also looking at different wearable solutions in order to make them less prone to transmission of an illness. So you can see here an example of a headset that we found to be successful in not having to remove masks to speak clearly over the radio. We're also looking at different earpieces that can be personally assigned rather than the microphones that are attached to the radios that are shared. So several different solutions coming out of our different plants as to how to overcome some of these challenges that we're facing. Hand sanitizer has been made available at several key points of entry, both on and off the floor, as well as into the buildings.
So other policy changes that have been enacted are for visitors and basically people that are deemed non-essential to our manufacturing operation. So I actually fall into that category of people that are non-essential. So I've been sent to work from home, and I'm here at home with my wife, and that's been great. And what else do we have here? Oops, sorry, I went too fast. One of the benefits, and Pete, you actually brought this up with non-essential employees being asked to work from home, is we were actually able to eliminate shared offices. I know in the Kansas plant, you guys had a few shared offices that you've been able to minimize.
Yeah, that's right. Since some of the non-essential employees are working from home, we've been able to reutilize their offices to spread out people throughout the plant and minimize those shared spaces.
So here are examples of two different front offices and two different sites. The image on the left is in our Erie, Pennsylvania site, and our image on the right here is, if you can't tell, from our at Lawrenceville, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta. Both setups ultimately achieve the goal of creating some sort of barrier between an outside visitor and our employee. On the left, you have a plexiglass window here. And then on the right, we actually put a visual indicator on the floor to try to once again just promote that social distancing. And you know, some of the slides that we put in here, they might not be completely applicable to whatever application that you have in your environment, but the general theme is something that we're hoping that we're able to share and might have some ideas and light bulbs go off. So this is another example. So obviously we're in the business of making stuff. So the only way that we can get paid for making those things is by shipping them to our customers. So one of the groups of people that are outside of Rehrig Pacific's umbrella is the different freight teams. So we've had to create some special controls and programs to maintain social distancing while also allowing truck drivers to come in and out of our plant. So starting with controlling the amount of people or the amount of drivers that are in the building at a time. I think the number that we keep it to is 2. We also obviously ask them to wash their hands as they enter the building, and also use hand sanitizer that we have posted right at the door. And then we even, and I'm pretty sure we've done this in most of our locations, we've even created a dedicated restroom and waiting area for truck drivers to sit and wait as their truck is being loaded. In the past, the guys would just be lined up, you know, in the break room or something like that, where now we're trying to promote the ability to keep a distance from everybody. And this is actually a funny thing, pens, right? So there's always paperwork that we need to fill out. We give truck drivers pens. If they don't have their own pen, we give it to them and they can keep it. Something small like that, but with the way that this virus is transmittable, it's another hazard. And then, like we already talked about, the 6-foot perimeter. The image is kind of cut off, but there's a clerk's desk right behind this guardrail and the drivers are not supposed to pass this line, obviously. Pete, you want to talk through some of the break room and cleaning schedules?
Sure. So to go along with the guidelines provided to us, we've instituted a regular cleaning schedule. Everything in the plant gets cleaned twice a shift, and we've set up a simple schedule to make sure that this occurs. So you can see the list here on the right. We're looking at doorknobs, conference room doorknobs, the sinks, the toilet handles, anything that people touch, right? Phones, etc., all get sanitized twice a shift. And we've broken this down into an accountability chart, so that way we can all make sure it's happening.
So next thing we want to share is just a couple different sections in our various manufacturing plants and what we've tried to do when we've encountered some tricky situations, right? So what we're staring at right here is the back hall in our Los Angeles facility. This is an aisle that forklifts drive through. On the right-hand side is typically where pedestrian traffic would go, but especially when we go through this little doorway, it's somewhat tight, and on a normal day, you just might brush right past somebody if you just happen to be walking there at the same time. But with our social distancing guidelines, that's no longer really a good option. So what we did is we actually essentially implemented one-way traffic. So you see Jose here on the left, who probably should be wearing a mask. He's walking here on the left-hand side, and that's for traffic going from the building. And then on the right-hand side, here's traffic going into the building. Similar with another thing that is probably in every facility is a time clock. So we established a 6-foot halo around the time clock so that only one employee can be punching in or punching out at the same time. And I think you see here, we have the hand sanitizer and some of the other things right there, right at the point of use.
This is our break room here in Kansas. And prior to this picture, we had bench tables set up where multiple people could enjoy their break together. In the spirit of social distancing, that didn't work anymore. So what we did is replace the tables with these single seat tables so that social distance could be maintained, but yet several people could use the break room to enjoy their downtime together.
Yeah, so here's an example that might not be completely appropriate or applicable to whatever environment that you all are working in, but the idea might be applicable. So this is, actually, these are the crates that I mentioned earlier. So this is an assembled folding crate right now. So this wall on the backhand side, or this wall here, actually folds down so that customers can get their eggs out of the freezer. So these crates are assembled by hand by 2 or 3 different people. So they're normally working all in one work cell on a shared table where operator 1 puts two walls together, operator 2 puts the other 2, and operator 3 decorates and stacks it, and so on and so forth. What we've done to enable that work to still happen while keeping social distancing is we've put these plexiglass barriers within the work cell. And if you notice here, there's actually a little gap between the table and the shield that enables employees to slide the trays underneath so that they can so that it can move through the cell.
Here's another picture from the Kansas plant. Like I said, we've done our best to minimize our person-to-person meetings. However, some are necessary, and this happens to be our shift exchange meeting, where the oncoming shift gets their information from the departing shift as to any issues or changes to the schedule that occurred. So we usually did this in a closed room, and everyone sat down and we talked through the bullet points. However, in this environment, that was no longer deemed safe. So what we did is we took this meeting out to a area of the production floor where we had some space. You can see behind the individual who's standing in front of the microphone, we have a large monitor there that we can display any digital information that we need to. And then in order to give everyone enough space and still be able to relay the information, we got a little PA system set up with a microphone so that everyone could hear and not feel the need to gather around so closely.
Yeah, and I've actually recommended that we keep that in the Kansas plant full time for karaoke Wednesdays.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, one thing that has also changed is how we're deploying work orders through Upkeep, right? So we've had to understand that in order for us to fulfill a work order that normally takes 3 people, we might now only have 2 people available to do it. So the duration of that work order might go from being 6 hours to 10 or something like that. Pete, have you guys recently had an example where social distancing has influenced how you are able to get work done?
Sure. For our mold changes, we usually have 3 to 4 team members working on those at one time. We've reduced that number and changed the roles of that team in order to allow them to maintain social distance while still working in that tight space. Really with Upkeep, we're able to look forward to our upcoming work orders and make these decisions and think about how we can maintain social distance and still get the work done where we can.
Awesome. So the next piece, and it's what we want to close with, has been what we've been doing to keep communication up and focus on keeping morale up. So I guess it would be our marketing team put together this video that we'd like to play for you that is essentially a message from our leadership showing appreciation to our frontline employees.
Thanks for calling Rehrig Pacific. This is Saida. May I help you?
In recent weeks, the world has come to realize something Rehrig Pacific has always known. That the work we do, the work our customers do, is vital to our way of life. We depend on the daily commitment of farmers and delivery drivers, on the men and women who keep our waste and recycling systems churning, and on those of us on the production lines who make those essential products that fortify our livelihoods. As most ride out the storm from the safety of home, here we are, keeping our cities and towns clean, keeping the supply chains alive. To our employees and to everyone we serve on the front line, the world is recognizing your bravery, your skill, your commitment to the greater good. Something those who know you best have always seen. Now, as always, we appreciate you.
Oh, don't want to play that again. That was awesome though. So, like we just talked about, messages from our leadership. And, even so we have a super formal example like that, but then we have loads of small things just like this, where our sales leadership is just sending pictures, sending messages throughout the plants, telling them, thank you for staying open. Thank you for working through this. One thing that's been really special too is the owner of our company, Will, whose last name is Rehrig. He sends out almost a weekly email communication, and there's nothing that specific about what he's communicating. The biggest theme that I've gotten from it is that he's going out of his way to letting all of his employees know that he's still thinking of us. And I think that's pretty special. And same thing, we're putting posters. One thing that we've done also to try to just continue to promote the awareness of this is everyone has gotten a social distancing shirt. So the ones that I got, they're this style, they're actually bright green. So not only will I be reminded to keep 6 feet away from everybody, everyone's gonna see me coming, even from outer space. So that's pretty exciting. And then, the last thing that's been pretty cool to, once again, keep morale high is, Rehrig Pacific is obviously in a unique state right now where we're so busy and we're almost in a way benefiting from what's happening from this increased demand. And we know that there's a lot of people out there that are not. So some of our manufacturing sites, what they've been doing is they've been hosting food drives and different community benefits to try to benefit those that aren't able to work right now, they're at a point where they're not sure if they're even going to be able to put food on their table. One action specifically that just comes to mind is our Erie plant. They donated food so that they could provide dinner for 50 families in the Erie plant. And there's loads of things like that happening throughout all of our 7 locations. I think that's pretty special. Victoria, do you have any questions for us?
I do actually. Thank you so much, by the way, Pete and John. This was a great presentation, and I love that video that your marketing department made for your team. That was really powerful, really powerful. So awesome. Yeah, so we got a couple questions here. Number 1 from Mark, how long did it take you to implement these measures?
I'll take that one, John. So we've been implementing measures continuously as things and recommendations change on the COVID-19 situation, and also as personal protective equipment becomes available. So it's been a continual evolution as we get more information about this as far as our policies and procedures and how we handle this. Once something gets decided and gets suggested, it happens very quickly. I would be dishonest to say we don't have some contrarians out there. but I think that the total support from the group is so much that everyone gets on board very, very quickly, and a lot more quickly than a lot of other policies or procedures that we put in place. And it's just the whole group coming together and working together to make this happen, and continuous reinforcement. I know specifically when we put the requirement to have masks, that was a challenging one. They're uncomfortable. It's something that you're not used to if you're working in manufacturing. So it was difficult at first to get people to wear them and wear them appropriately. But like I said, the constant reinforcement from every one of our team members helps. And it's just not even a second thought at this point in time.
Wow, that's great. My next question was, have you received any pushback from the team? But it sounds like everyone's pretty on board. Is that right?
Yeah, there's some resistance at first, but like I said, just with the constant reinforcement, it would be very difficult to not find your place in line.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. Sonia asked, where have you been getting your PPE? Can you share that information?
Sure. It's coming from several different sources. Our national procurement team has helped us find some masks and gloves. We've sourced hand sanitizer from some local distilleries that have converted over to making sanitizing products. So several of them around the Kansas City area, who I will also be patronizing after the fact for their help through this, have supplied us with hand sanitizer to keep us moving. And then also on the masks, people have been getting creative and finding ways to make their own masks. We have a gentleman who's 3D printing masks for people. A lot of people are going with bandanas to help stretch the supply of the purchased masks we have a little bit further.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Well, that's about all the time we have for today. I want to thank Pete and John for sharing their story of Rehrig. Really powerful. We can't thank you enough for taking the time. I know you guys are crazy busy right now, so taking the time to kind of hang out with us for a half an hour and share best practices, we really appreciate it. And I'd also like to thank all you folks out there that joined us today. I hope you learned something. I hope this was helpful. And we all actually hope you stay very safe here in the coming days, and just keep looking up. We're going to get through this together. So thanks, you guys. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.